So the committee this year has decided to focus on these two aspects, and not to continue to sponsor activities, but also to use the mission series to help us learn more about ecological environmental issues, the education part. So we thought that a good thing to do, because today is World Food Day, in case you don't remember, and World Food Day is a way of acknowledging the United Nations Food Program and the office located in Rome that reaches out to all countries in the world. But Alan kept saying, we always focus on food scarcity in our own country, but we need to know about food scarcity around the world. And today we have 3 people from different countries who are part of our Newman community who have agreed to talk about this in their own country. Next month we'll focus on food scarcity in Wichita. So this will be our 2 foci for fall semester. So for you who came to support your colleagues, your student colleagues, thank you for being with us. It's great to have students here. Tahj, you must feel honored.
Greatly.
Delphine, you have your social work faculty here.
Ah, lovely.
So that's great too. So usually what this is, everybody brings their own lunch and then dessert and drinks are provided. So if you brought your own lunch, feel free to begin and know that you've got the drinks over on the counter. Clark, are we all about ready?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, so let's just begin with a prayer, and then I've given you some of the background, and then we'll give our speakers their time. So God, we thank you for this time together today. Especially we thank you for the beauty and the richness of creation, which too often we undo, to even destroy by our greed and our bad habits of especially consumption and materialism. And we often do this in our own country without thinking about the consequences that have major impacts in countries around the world. So as we listen to these 3 today, please help us to be open, to know how to change our lifestyle to help better the environment for people everywhere around the world. All this we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So our 3 on the panel today, we have a faculty member, Dr., I want to pronounce it correctly. Sumia. Okay, she says first name, so I'll go with that. And Tahj, who is from Belize, Pakistan.
Yes.
And Delphine, who's from Ghana. So we have 3 different continents represented in this. And they've all agreed they're going to talk about the situation in their country, how maybe they remember it, how it's changed, how climate change has affected that. And when they're finished, then we'll have question and answer. Okay? So, Sumia, you want to begin, please?
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk here today.
Can you hear it in the back? Okay, so you can hear it. Clark, is it loud enough for the camera?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, we're set. Sumia.
As you all know, I belong from Pakistan, which is a South Asian country. And coming from Pakistan, a third world country, to US has given me a lot of different experiences, like experiencing Pakistan and then experiencing a different life here. So that is what I'm gonna highlight today a little bit in terms of the food availability back home. So when I was a kid, I belong to a middle class family, and it was like a very small city back home, so not from the capital of Pakistan. Capital is more modernized, and we have more resources there for the people as compared to someone who lives in a village. So my childhood was all spent in a small village, and the main profession for the people over there is agriculture. almost 60% of the population in Pakistan still survives on the agriculture, which comprises almost 53% of Pakistan's overall GDP. So that's a main component. And being from a small village, people were not very educated over there, so the main majority of the people over there was the ones who were laborers and who were just working in the agriculture. So it has always been a very important part for the people over there, the agriculture related stuff. But with the weather change due to global warming especially, we are having very harsh summers back home. Winter is also harsh, but the impact of winter is not as much on the country overall as it is for the summer, because when the summer becomes harsh, you are gonna see more flooding happening in the country. When I was a kid, it wasn't that much of an issue because the average temperatures were not too high at that time. I'm talking about when I was a teenager, so around 2010 ish. So, but it became a bigger issue these days because of very significant climate changes. Even though Pakistan doesn't contribute to a lot of carbon production as compared to overall world, I believe it is less than 1% carbon emission that comes from Pakistan as compared to the rest of the world. But its geographical location makes it more vulnerable to the impacts that come from the global warming. So when because of the global warming, more glaciers and snow melts, they are causing more flooding in the Pakistan, and then the pattern for the rainfall have changed. So usually between the time of June to September is the period for monsoon rainfall in Pakistan. So usually all the farmers, they will plan their cultivations based on that rainfall. But now, because the rainfall brings in a lot of flooding, the agriculture land is just getting destroyed by flooding every year, as well as there are landfalls happening, landslides. They are causing a lot of destruction to the infrastructure. So if we talk about the economy, it's getting impacted a lot by the overall global warming, and that ultimately is affecting the agriculture and the poor people. The poor people are getting more poor day by day because of the same thing. It might not affect the rich people at the end of the day, but the poor farmers, their life highly depends on what they are getting from the agriculture. Another main part is the livestock. Almost 20 to 30% of the livestock is impacted every year by the flooding, and it has been projected. I have the name of the resource from where I got the information. It's called Pakistan Institute of Development Economics and Canada's Internal Development Research Center. They did an estimation, and according to their estimation, by the end of the 21st century, which is around, according to their estimate, around the time period of 2080, Pakistan is subjected to have an overall reduction in the wheat production around 6 to 11%, and in rice production, specifically basmati rice production, around 20 to 30%, which is huge when it comes to considering the percentage and overall impact on the economy of the country and impact on the poor people. So global warming is playing a main role in the increased temperatures, more melting of ice, bringing in more water, which is very hard to manage. We can't store it because we don't have those many dams to just store all the water there, and then it's causing a lot of destruction, every year, and just impacting the common people a lot. And according to the data, some recent data collected by different organizations, both the profit and non-profit, who work on the food and food scarcity, according to their estimate, between the time period of March 2023 to June 2024, there are 24% people in Pakistan who have food insecurities at the moment, which is a huge population, and most of those people are the ones that are impacted by the flooding, by the weather pattern changes, and overall because of the changes in the agriculture. Um, and if you think about that, Pakistan, in terms of population, I think it's a fifth biggest country in the world. It comprises almost 3% of world's population. So that's a huge number. Those are millions of people who have food insecurities. Around 1.6 million people are in the severe food insecurity, which is according to, I think we call them IPC phase 4 people. So this is the classification done based on the food availability by different organizations. So around 1.6 million people are in IPC phase 4 at the moment in Pakistan, and around 7 million people are in phase 3. Phase 4 is where it's impact is very huge, while for the rest of the 7 million people is, we call them, they are in the food crisis. So overall, most of it is where it comes from the impacts on the agriculture because of the environment change. As I said earlier, it wasn't that much of the issue when I was growing up, but these days I hear every year there will be flooding there, in almost all parts of Pakistan. So we have 4 provinces. Majority of the population lives in Punjab. So that's almost 53% of population, because Punjab is the main hub for agriculture as compared to the rest of the 3 provinces. And because of the flooding in almost all the rivers, most of the time during the summer, those crops are getting destroyed. And it's impacting a lot of exports that we do to outside other countries. One of the main production being mangoes. We have world's best mangoes. That's what I miss the most. I love mangoes, and the mangoes in the US, I'm not saying anything bad.
I agree with you.
But they are not even like 1% closer to how actual mangoes are. So, and Pakistan is among the top 5 biggest exporters for the mangoes. And with the flooding and summer weather changes, everything is getting impacted, and ultimately poor people are getting impacted, and that's causing a lot of trouble with the food availability. And it's still being projected to increase. All this destruction that is happening is projected to get worse with time, if no further adaptations are adapted by the higher authorities, and then it goes to all the lower levels as well.
All right, so what we agreed is they will each do their presentation, but Sumia has to leave about 10 of 1 because she teaches at 1 o'clock. So if anybody has a burning question they want to ask her now, we can take it, and then we'll go on to Delphine's next, and then Tahj after that. Somebody have one question that they really want to ask Sumia? Okay, let's go on then. Delphine? And Delphine prepared a PowerPoint, so Delphine's from, as you can see, Ghana. Okay, and a master's in social work student.
No, can you go to the first one? So yeah, as you all know, I'm talking about the scarcity of food globally. Specifically, I'm going to talk about in the space of Ghana.
Go
So,
louder, both for recording and for
Okay.
us.
so I'm gonna bore you with a picture there, which is a cocoa tree, a cocoa on the tree, and it would interest you to know that Ghana is the second largest country. Ghana is the second largest country that produces cocoa worldwide. So next. And I encounter people confusing Guyana, which is a country in South America, with Ghana. So I first of all like to talk briefly about Ghana. Ghana is a country in Africa, specifically West Africa. And we share border with Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, and Togo. And we have a population about 31 million people. And we are known for our diverse culture and natural resources. So despite economic growth in the country, Ghana has actually experienced scarcity in terms of food. I can say that it's a very big problem in the country. And statistics state that about 5% of the Ghanaian population faces food insecurity. And as you can see from the three pictures, red, yellow, green with a star in the middle, that is my Ghana flag. And when you look at the African map, we can see Ghana close to the sharing borders with Côte d'Ivoire and Togo at the side, and we have Burkina Faso as well. And that is our kente cloth, the lady putting on the kente cloth of Ghana, which is one of the special cultures of the country. And you see most people dressing like that in the country, and that really makes us unique. So there are few causes, or there are few factors that actually causes scarcity in terms of food in the country, and I'll be leveraging on three of those. I'm going to talk about poverty. I'll talk about how climate change affects that, as well as agricultural dependence. So Ghana is a country that rely mostly on agriculture. Just as she stated, people are into farming, and an average income of a Ghanaian person is believed to be $2,200 per year. And it is really amazing to know that most households live on $1.90 a day. That is way low, something one would want to talk about. And food prices are often high, especially for my family and other poor communities that had to, find it really hard to afford nutritious foods. It was, it's really tough in the country. And when we talk about climate change has actually affected the farming population, and now the prediction of the weather, it's something one cannot even talk about. You don't really know when it's going to rain, and this really affects farmers when it has to do with the decision making on when to plant and when not to plant. So rainy season has actually changed. At first, the month that is supposed to be raining has to be from April down to July, but now it mostly does not even rain during this period at all, which is really alarming. And the main hub of farming in the country is in the northern region, and floods or rain normally happen to the southern part where I happen to have grown up. And there's so much of drought on the northern side, making it really hard for these farmers to be able to produce food to meet the demands of the people. And this, in the long run, hurts the growth of crop yields. And then it's been predicted that within the space of 2003 to 2080, there's going to be a global impact on climate worldwide. And as you can see in the picture, Ghana is one of those countries that is going to suffer when it comes to climate change, which is something that is going on really hard as at this moment. So in terms of agriculture dependence, although the northern side are mainly into farming, there's not much when it comes to farming methods and all of that. So these farmers are into farming and they practice poor farming methods, making it really hard to be able to get enough crops to meet the demand. And it's really interesting that we are still used to the olden way of farming, where you see people having a larger farmlands and they are still focusing on using hoes and cutlasses. And this is really hard to meet the growing demands of the population of the country. And that is actually based on the fact that they lack the knowledge and the technology to be able to increase production. And sometimes there's, availability of fertilizers and seeds, but these farmers do not have the knowledge to be able to get the best out of them. And also some families or areas are into small farm. They have small farm sizes, making it hard to grow enough food or crops. Just as I said, day in, day out, the country is growing in terms of population, and as the country is increasing, the demand of food becomes really high. So if this farm is unable to get enough farm-sized land or the fertilizers and the technology to be able to grow these crops in abundance to meet the needs, it makes it really hard for the people or the population to be able to get enough food. And also, there have been soil quality issues where these lands are being overused. There's not enough land where they can probably shift to, in terms of where they had to leave this land to, for some time for it to get the time to renew, to be able to farm on them again. So this has posed some challenges to the people. This is as a result of the fact that it is statistically about 30% of food is lost during harvest. This is as a result of the fact that we do not have enough storage to be able to preserve those food facilities or food produce that have been harvested from the farms. And pest and mold also destroy most of the foods that are being stored because we do not have the right facilities to be able to preserve these foods. And also, when it comes to road or transportation, it's one major problem in the country. And these farms are actually far away from the city, and transporting those goods to the cities or in other areas that are being needed. We do not have the right means of transport or road to be able to transport these goods to the areas. And sometimes food rots before they are being sold to the people, which health-wise it might cause troubles to these people. So it has a lot of effect on the people, as I've already said. And research has shown that about 1.2 million of the population faces food insecurity. And children are often at the height of it, having to struggle with nutrients or getting enough nutrients for proper growth. And some kids also struggle with stunting, which statistics shows that about 19% of the children under 5 years has to undergo these challenges. And in terms of health problems, the inability of these children or these people getting enough nutritious foods, it leads to the immune system being weakened because they do not have adequate nutrition, and there's high rates of anemia, as well as pregnant women and children being at the high risk of going through all these problems due to the scarcity that food has actually posed to them. To the next. And health-wise, kids normally have trouble focusing in school because hunger is something that does not give you peace of mind to be able to concentrate in class. And some children also skip school, which I'm not an exception, because we are unable to afford food. And this also traps families in a cycle of poverty. And in terms of migration or movement of people, most people move from these rural areas or the northern region of Ghana to go into the cities where they think or believe that they could be able to get a job to have a good standard of living. And at the end, it poses a lot of problems or challenges to the city or the main capital of the country, whereby the country actually has to deal with overcrowding. And if you know that there's an overcrowding in spaces where they are not being regulated, this sometimes leads to trafficking, a lot of theft issues and all of that. And most people leave this, rural areas, leaving their land where they could probably grow foods to meet the demands of the need of the people, making it really hard to get enough food to meet the demands of the people. Oh no, can you go back, please? So yeah, that's literally, in the picture, that is me. A point I have to leave from school to be able to work and help my family afford food. And yeah, that's just me in the picture, and that's one of the farmlands in the community. And also, with all this, government has actually put a lot of initiative to making sure that they reduce the impact food scarcity has on the people. So there's this program called Planting for Food and Jobs that was started in 2017. And the aim was to be able to modernize agriculture and improve food security. And it also provided subsidized seeds and fertilizers for farmers to increase crop yields. And in terms of international aid has actually come to our aid as a country. And there's this program called World Food Program that provides school kids. I did not have the privilege to have experienced that, but my siblings right now kind of have the opportunity to be able to get one square meal a day, which, it's moderate for them to be able to go to school. And this has actually increased the number of attendance, because instances where you go to school, you're not able to concentrate in class because you're hungry and you're even thinking about what you're going to eat after school. You don't even have the passion to even want to go to the school in the first place. So this program has actually helped to encourage these kids to be able to be in school. And it also helped farmers to improve their farming practices, and it has also increased the yield of crops as well. Yeah. So there had also been workshops when it comes to the farming side, where government has actually organized workshops for these farmers to teach them about crop rotation and water management. And there had also been workshops that had introduced them to drought resistant and crop varieties, as well as the use of organic fertilizers. I think this, for some time now, had really helped most of the farmers to be able to increase the amount of crop yields yearly, and it's an improvement or something that can be more worked on to be able to make it even bigger and better. In terms of infrastructure, government is trying, although it's not enough. They've been able to help farmers to transport some of these goods, not necessarily majority of them, to the areas that they are being needed. There have been some facilities that are supposed to be constructed to help store foods, but they are not adequate, as well as there had been, instances where irrigation systems have also been implemented. And as you can see in the picture, we as a country focus on rain to survive in terms of farming. So we are not so much into the irrigation system. So government has put in place instances where boreholes are being digged, where these farmers can be able to get water to water their fruits even when it's not raining. And as you can see in the picture, that's determines what they are trying to get their, seeds or their crops in what aspect. So yeah, personally, as I've experienced a lot of food insecurity growing up, and this had really affected me hugely, especially in terms of my education. There were times I had to go to school and I don't want to go because at the end of the day, when I return, there's no food, right? And I go to class, I'm not able to concentrate. I'm thinking about what if I go home, I don't get anything to eat? I had to sleep on an empty stomach, right? And it was really tough. So considering me going through that and other kids, I'm like, I'm not the only person going through all of that. And people had to drop out of school because there's no food, right? So I had to, go through all of that, although I'm here today, but it was really tough to be able to maneuver through all the circumstances. So sometimes I come back from school and my mom and dad are having maybe a leftover food that had been, stored or saved a couple of days. I have to share that little portion with my other siblings. I watch my parents sit and just watches. They haven't eaten, but they're thinking about tomorrow. It is not enough for the family to share, so I have to share the little with my siblings, which is, really hard to accommodate. And sometimes you don't get satisfied, but you just have to drink enough water so that it kind of occupies the spaces that is left, and then you sleep like that. So it has really affected my education in a way, but then with all of that, I still persevered, and I'm here today. And then there were times that I had to run away from school so I can go climb coconut trees for people to get money, where I could, help my family get a bread a day. I'm not talking about 3 square meals a day. I'm talking about 1 square meal a day. Sometimes you don't even get anything to eat all day. All you do is to drink water. But that was just fine. And also, there are times I had to leave school to come and help my dad because he had issues with his waist, he had issues with his knee, but he still had to work and take care of the family. So that is me in the picture. I was trying to help my dad. I was carrying the block. That is, I think that's 6 inches block, up there. And this is me and my siblings. That was when I was leaving for high school. That's just me and my siblings there as well. So, to actually summarize on that, so despite the widespread of this food scarcity issue that Ghana faces, which actually affects a lot of people due to poverty, climate change, and poverty matters, my upbringing in the family community has not only prevented me from going through all of that, although I had a small portion of land that I found a few things on it, that was not enough to kind of, for us to survive on throughout the whole year, because it's a farming season that ends at a point. So when you're not farming, what do you survive on after the farming season is over? It was really a challenge. And I think a lot of people in the northern region had to go through all of this, as well as those in the rural communities. So it's been really tough. So I'll conclude by saying that food scarcity in Ghana is a complex problem, just as I've stated for my reasons that I've already stated or spoken about already. It affects millions of people, especially children, which is really alarming. I mean, if this happened to all the people, I think there should be a way where they can be able to endure it, but this is a case where children have to suffer it, right? It's really terrible. And I think that coming together to fight this also requires everybody getting involved. The government does its part. The international bodies that also need to come in for us, as well as the communities, the local communities that are involved. There are a lot of organizations that come in to help us. But I think there's still hope to continue to work as a unit or as a collective people, thereby bringing these people a better life and supporting organizations that are into making sure that they give these people and this country, especially these kids, the ability to be able to live up to their dreams. Thank you.
personal sharing. Truly appreciate. You're amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, we knew that from seeing you on campus, but now we know how even more amazing you are. So, Raj, your turn. Tahj, excuse me.
You're fine.
Tahj.
Can I ask for some water?
Oh, sure, I'll get it for you. Please start.
Thank you. Yeah, it's bad.
Just make sure people can hear you.
Yeah. So, as Teresa mentioned, my name is Tahj. From a crown jewel called Belize. It's located in Central America. We're bordered by the north by Mexico, by the south and the west by Guatemala. Thank you so much.
Sorry, but some people.
Am I not loud enough?
Down, go maybe. Is that louder? Can you hear him enough?
So we're bordered by the south and the west by Guatemala, and by the east we're bordered by the Caribbean Sea. Belize is a very diverse country. We have numerous different cultures in our country. We have cultures like the Creole, we have the Garifuna, we have the Mestizos, the East Indians, Chinese, community of Mennonites. So we're a very diverse country that has a bunch of different rich cultures in it. Belize is very close to the equator, so we're a very warm country. We're practically warm all year round. Not like Wichita is kind of it's getting a bit chilly now. But yeah, we're practically warm all year round, and we get a lot of rainfall, which helps us with agriculture. Our country, we rely a lot on our agriculture to feed the country, basically. Our biggest produce is citrus, bananas, and sugar, raw sugar. We get the raw sugar from sugar canes that's up in the north. Our country is divided up into 6 districts. We have the Curacao district, the Orange Walk, Belize, Cayo, Stan Creek, and the Toledo district. In my opinion, from one district to another, it's like stepping into a whole different culture, a whole different world. Down south in the Toledo district, we have the Garifuna, rich in their culture. You know, you think of the hudud, you think of that sort of food. More centrally, you go to Belize City, and you have the Creole. It's a whole different experience. So that gives the country a whole rich environment. And with this, we have, because of the tropical nature of our country, we're able to do agriculture. So some of the crops that we grow, in addition to citrus, bananas, and sugar, we have wheat, rice, beans, ground foods like yams, cassava, fresh vegetables, flour, corn, and unprocessed meat. The issue with climate change is that now during the summers are a lot warmer. The rainfall is way more treacherous. It rains over in Guatemala. Guatemala is higher land, so all that water comes down into Belize, and we have massive floods back in 2022 when I left Belize to come to college here. We had a major flood in Belize, and looking over on the news, you would see, like cows floating down the rivers. You would see, devastated crops being destroyed, and so all of those kind of, put a dent in crops that's being produced. Not only do we produce the ground foods and the veggies, we also have, being bordered by the Caribbean Sea, we have all those beautiful fishes, we have those delicious lobsters. So we have all of those marine agriculture. But again, because of, the weather being warmer, the water getting warmer, it affects the breeding, like the breeding phases of the marine life. And because of them not being able to breed properly, it's affecting their growth, then we have to, how would you say it? We have to keep in mind when we can fish, when we can't fish, and to protect the life, because we don't want to fish and have all of our fishes taken away. So with that in mind, it not necessarily brings a famine to the country, but it also brings like a caution to the country, whereas, farmers not knowing when to plant, farmers having to, try to bring in new irrigation systems, because we depend so much, like Ghana, we depend so much on the rainfall that once the rain comes in, we water our plants. But with not getting enough rain, with the summers being so hot, we're not able to, get that rainfall that we rightfully need. And being a third world country, our technological advancements aren't as, we don't have the newest farming equipment, we don't have the newest irrigation systems. And so all of those things come into play when you think about crops being yielded for the country. I would say in 2019, I'm bad with numbers, so please forgive me, but around 2019, we had a shortage in flour and sugar. That was due to the hot weathers that we were facing as well. So due to all the environment getting hotter, the days getting warmer, the summers being long and warm, the wet season. So we have two seasons, the dry and the wet season, you'd call it. Back in Belize, we say dry season, the wet season. Our wet season is basically between June to November. So June to November, that's our hurricane season. And during that hurricane seasons, because of all this climate change, our storms are more treacherous. Hurricanes that pass through the country might be even more treacherous, causing damage to our crops, causing damage to our livestock even. And so those would be some of the issues that we face. But at the same time, it's not, in my experience, I wouldn't say it's that much of a big dent. I could be wrong, but in my experience, at least in the center of the country where I live, we didn't experience much of, like a huge downfall where, poverty is exclamating, or like we have inflation and poverty and stuff like that. But at the same time, it is a struggle that is growing. The summers are becoming hotter, the rainy seasons are getting worse. And I think to be able to combat this problem, I think we need to find ways to advance technologically so that we could prepare for, long dry summers. We can't really prepare for crazy storms, but at the same time, we could try to see, make a community effort, make a countrywide effort to repair and rebuild. So in our country, I don't think the scarcity is that much of, like a huge problem that affects the entire country, but it is an issue that, as the years go on, as the climate change continues to affect our country, it is an alarming thing to think about that, 10, 15, 20 years from now, what would it look like? Like how bad will the storms be? How bad will the hurricanes be? How dry would the dry summers be? And so those are the type of questions that I think about. But at the same time, I could still remember back when we had, not back when we had, my fault. I could still remember days when my mom would wake me up on like Saturdays and say, all right, let's go, we gotta go to the market. And you go to the market and you see all the local farmers, all the fresh poultry, all everything that you could think about, fresh veg, fresh fruit. It's all there, On Saturdays you would come out and all the local farmers would bring their produce. They would come to the desk, they would have their stands, everyone walking through, trying to get there as early as possible to get all their fresh veg. But in my opinion, it's not like here where you go to the market or you go to the flea market and you see like vegetables are looking a bit dainty. But you would see that in certain days you go to the market and there's less produce, or there's not so much of, for argument's sake, cilantro, or, like there would be less of something. And as the years go on, it could keep happening, and that I think is an alarming thing to think about. It might not be an issue that is devastating right now, but it's still an issue that eventually could be a problem, and hopefully we could all fix it before it becomes a devastating problem for the entire world. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so questions or comments to these two wonderful young people who enlightened us today?
Well, first I appreciate both of you all for sharing your experiences. You all gave some great presentations.
Thank you.
What is the main food from your country, and how is that resourced?
So I would say the main food in my region. So every region actually have their own food. That's how it is. So I'm from the Volta region, which is the southern side, and we are into akple and banku. So we get it from corn flour. So sometimes we are unable to get corn in our country. So we mostly have to cross the border to Togo. We are really close to the Togo, just a few miles away. So sometimes people go into Togo to kind of buy a lot of corn from the other side so we can be able to get it when we do not have enough. But as I was going, there had been restrictions on Ghanaians moving to the other country to, buy foods and transport it to the country, which has really been really serious. The government political side, I don't want to talk about it, but it's really hard trying to get corn at some point to be able to, maize. I don't mean maize or corn. You guys say corn, so but we say maize. So yeah, but when we do not have adequate, mostly we go to Togo. Togo is a neighboring country. They have maize in abundance where we can easily transport them into the country. But other regions are into their food would be like fufu, gobe, which is gobe is from beans, plantain, eggs, and that is mostly something that it's special to them, and it's hard for you to have issues when it comes to getting gobe. Gobe is something that you can easily get, but in terms of fufu, where they do not get enough cassava because the climate does all, they don't get enough rainfall. They have to, look for other, alternative to be able to survive on it.
Over in Belize, like I mentioned, we're very diverse, so we have numerous different cultures. Each culture has their own delicacy, if you would like to say it. The main dish in Belize would be the lunch: rice and beans, stewed chicken, or fried fish with nice potato salad, plantain. You cannot forget the plantain. But that would be like a main Belizean dish. A Garifuna dish would be something like hudut. You would have like the plantain, you would beat the green plantain and then add some ripe plantain into it, season it a little bit, mash it, and then you would add that in with like a fried fish with a coconut type soup. And that would be like a Garifuna dish. Mestizos, you have like tamales, and all of the ingredients for all of it, say rice and beans, the rice, the beans, the chicken, we cultivate it in the country. Likewise for the hudut, so the plantain, the fish, we get it from the sea. The plantain, we harvest it in our industries. And then the tamales, like the masa, we grow most of it in the country. And I think you should all visit Belize. The food is amazing. Trust, the food is amazing. But yeah, we do grow most of the crops that we use for the different dishes that we have in the country. Anybody else have anything on their minds?
Anyone else?
Anything, Professor?
I guess I'm trying to decide how to word my question. I have a curiosity for you both.
Cool.
Again, thank you for sharing your stories. It's how we all learn. So I'm Andy Geeson. I'm the Dean of Students, and I've been here at Newman 2 years. I'm constantly amazed and inspired by students like yourselves who are willing to travel from home so far away and come be here. I think that takes an amazing amount of courage and persistence, and so thank you for that.
Thank you.
My question is, what, the challenges that you've described with food scarcity and the changing
Right.
food availability, what are your perceptions coming here at what your student colleagues, your peers, might think of as food challenges? I know there are food insecurities around us.
Mhm.
There are students and people around us experiencing food insecurity. What is your perception about the challenges your student peers are facing here?
That's an interesting question to think about. I also think it's like a difficult question to answer in like black and white,
Yes.
because financial situations and household situations and stuff. But if I would take away just thinking about like my immediate peers and think of country to country, not to talk bad about the U.S., but I would say it's a little bit more wasteful in terms of food, because you at the middle of the night you want McDonald's, you go to the fast food restaurant, like food is in abundance. And not to mention people that are suffering financially that can't that might miss a meal, or the homeless people on the streets, they might have issues with getting meals. But in a general sense, when I think of the entire country compared to countries that face actual scarcity, not to put it in a blunt way, not to sound any disrespectful in any way, but to compare, like a country that's facing, devastated weathers and all of those situations, it's a bit difficult, in my opinion. It's my personal opinion that it's a bit difficult to put it in black and white, but I do believe that America in general might be,
You could be truthful.
they might be
We
a
know
bit
it, we
wasteful.
know it.
They are a bit wasteful, and they don't think twice. Like you finish a plate of food, or you finish cooking, you finish your meal, throw it out. I worked in my previous school. I worked at the kitchen over the summer. I worked at the kitchen at the summer camp that I was working with, and like it's just a normal thing that. At the same time, what can you do with the extra food? But at the same time, it's like you have all this food and you just throw it out. And in my household, we have food leftovers. We have to save that for the next day. We call it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That's what we call it, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You make a dinner Sunday, you have it Monday, Tuesday. You have it for breakfast, you have it for lunch. You save it on for the following days. And it's not like the middle of the night. We don't have anywhere to go in the middle of the night to buy food. In Belize, personally, we don't have McDonald's, we don't have Chick-fil-A, any American-based fast food restaurants. We do have fast food restaurants, and you can get, finger greasy food and all that stuff, but it's not in abundance like that. Like it's something that in my opinion, I feel like we take more care about food in my country compared to how they see food here. It's like, oh, I could get it, I don't want it anymore, throw it out. I take 2 bites out of a burger, throw it out, when I need to eat that burger now because I'm not sure if I'm going to have something later for tonight. That's my perception of the situation.
So like he said, when I also came, I was in New York, I was in Albany, and I see, student kind of wasting food a lot. Sometimes I go to dining hall and, even if I get a lot of portion, I make sure that I finish it. I'm not compelled to finish it, but then I feel really bad, even taking a step to go and even that, pour it away or throw it away, because I feel like growing up, I didn't even have it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So why am I having it? And I decided to make, the best of good use of it. So it feels really bad in that extent. Thank you. And also, although we facing food insecurity in Ghana, I see most of our food to be very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
They are very healthy, even if it's very tiny. Although I know that growing up, a lot of households are facing food insecurity where there are no nutrients. They don't have any nutritious food I mean, when I was talking about my experience, there was no point where you even have meat, you don't even have chicken or anything, because you don't even have the money to afford it. And even if they are, for you to go and buy, they are really, really expensive. And you're in a household where you don't even have enough to even think about buying it. So you eat food without meat. So coming out here, I mean, it's a privilege. And I mean, each and every day I say that it's an opportunity where I really want to utilize and be an empowerment to a lot of kids out there. I mean, maybe out of 20, you see 2 kids coming out of same, situation to be able to make it, especially education-wise, trying to climb the ladder. There are points where people are having money, I mean, they are wealthy, and instead of them to support you, they want to get into your pants. That's what they care about. They don't really care about your education. They don't care about the fact that you are trying to, build yourself, build your future, or trying to be a better person in the future. So I think, regardless of all of that, America got everything. I see that every time. So kids don't really value it. I see a lot of
Right.
people, they don't really value whatever opportunity they have. They don't value, because I believe in scarcity bringing value. Because if you have everything in abundance, what is the point in trying to preserve it? What is the point in trying to making sure that you take good care of it? So overall, yeah, there's so much difference. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you both very, very much.
I appreciate the opportunity.
We can continue, and we should continue this conversation with these 2 plus others in learning about countries and cultures and food scarcity and the differences. And I thank you for reminding us, and we need these reminders. 1, how much we take for granted, and 2, how much we don't appreciate what we have and care for it properly. So next month, there's a multicultural food luncheon. Either of you remember the date? The posters are around on campus, I know that, where they will bring foods from their own countries that we can enjoy, or we can bring food and add to the multicultural mix. And then in January, the student DEI committee is going to sponsor an international fashion show. And students from different countries can model their beautiful outfits, and we can learn about culture through that. So I'm giving you heads up on a couple things coming up where we can continue this learning about different countries and their situations. And again, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.